Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I've got some good news and some bad news on the DIE front, diversity, inclusion, equity. Talked a little bit about it yesterday. There's definitely some clawing back going on, but it takes real leadership at the state level in particular when you're talking about public universities. You've seen that from Ron DeSantis, seen it from Greg Abbott too, being visited upon the University of Texas, and the DIE-addled kids at the University of Texas are just beside themselves.
I cried, and I was angry. A lot of people are upset. All of my group chats are raging, all of the group me's, all of the slacks, everybody is raging.
They say the people and experiences close to them are being ripped away. According to our partners at the American Statesman, at least 60 staff members who were previously in DEI roles have been notified that their last day is at the end of the semester. In a letter to the UT community, President Jay Harsel wrote in part, quote, "To reduce overlap, we are closing the Division of Campus and Community Engagement and redistributing the remaining programs," end quote. That division used to be DEI related and, like similar departments, had to change its name in January because of the new law.
This is just Texas. Texas does not want us here. Texas has never wanted us here.
Christiana McAfee with the Black Student Alliance says a lot of the DEI related jobs are filled with people who look like her.
For most of us Black students, these are our only letters of recommendation. These are the only people that we can get close enough with to build a further relationship with us.
A lot of them were just there for me and gave me a lot of resources, and were always there when I was unsure of what to do or if I just wasn't feeling right about something.
Yeah, it's a real sad story. In fact, actually, it is a sad story. It's a sad story that you have undergrads at a relatively good school like the University of Texas that are so identitarian addled because of, I assume mainly because of their experience in school from kindergarten to their days at the University of Texas. Texas doesn't want us here. Texas never wanted us here. If by us you mean the new Marxists, yeah, probably so. Probably a lot don't want you there. And that's how it goes. Reality bites, kids. Now, the flip side is UCLA Med School. Med School. Mm-hmm. They're not going peacefully. They're not going quietly. Mandatory class at UCLA Med School. A lecture from Tina Gray Garcia, who is a pro-Hamas purveyor of agitprop. And this is what she had to say. And UCLA med school students were compelled to listen. Where's Dr. Joseph Ladapo, now the Florida Surgeon General, when you need him?
Thank you, Creator, for another day of life. Thank you to Wanga relatives for taking care of this small part of Mama Earth, this big part of Mama Earth that the settlers call LA, Los Angeles. Taking care of it so beautifully so that we could still be here. Surviving the violent removal of genocide so that we think that this is a place called LA with no history, no herstory, no past, no peoples. And thank you for still being here, 500 and 200 Gregorian years later. Standing up, fighting up, speaking up, and shouting out, land back! Back! That part. Thank you to all of our relatives who die on these occupied streets every day. Our black and brown and poor people, houseless people from all nations and all generations who died because of the capitalist lie of scarcity, of private property, of money and ownership of Mama Earth, when Mama Earth was never meant to be bought or sold, pimped, or played. Thank you to
Free,
Does she
free,
have a mask on too? It sounds like.
free Palestine, demanding that the med students bow down to Mother Earth. October 7th, the Hamas terrorist attack. Justice, that's how she referred to it. Um, she led students in what she described as a non-secular prayer to the ancestors, instructing everyone to get on their knees and touch the floor, Mama Earth, with their fists. About half the class complied. She included a benediction for black, brown, and houseless people, you heard, who die due to the capitalist lie of private property. That's a lie. Mama Earth was never meant to be bought, sold, pimped, or played, you heard her say there at the end. So, yeah, these days when you decide to go to a doctor, you need this checkup or you need a particular procedure, a particular prescription, you may want to ask where they went to med school. And then you may need to do some investigating and tell them, I'll get back to you, especially if they're, say, under the age of 50. For more on all of this and a few other matters, please be joined again by Dave Seminara, former diplomat, author of Footsteps of Federer and Mad Travelers, A Tale of Wanderlust, Greed, and the Quest to Reach the Ends of the Earth. Dave, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
So, the identitarian fight continues in earnest, but at least a few states are actually joining the fight, which is long overdue. So, but it's very interesting to hear the reactions. But it's also worth taking note that as much as you may be cheerleading a Ron DeSantis or a Governor Abbott on this matter and others, Border as well, the other side that's actually in control of these institutions, even in red states, is forging ahead.
I thought you were going to say something nice about Florida. At this time of year, I'm usually in a very sunny, optimistic mood about my adopted home state of Florida. But after just having done all this research on inflation here and seeing our soaring cost of living, I thought I was going to make people in Chicago feel good by talking about how bad inflation is here. But yeah, I mean, we've also got some good things to boast about. We're killing DEI, or at least we're trying to. But, the interesting thing about it is when you talk to other parents, I have 2 teenage sons, even though we've officially sort of killed DEI here, there's still a widespread perception when we talk to other parents about, for example, college admissions, because we've got 2 teenagers. That's kind of a big topic of conversation. People here still think, but you should try to find like a Latino ancestor so you can check that Latino
yeah, of course,
when you're applying for colleges. Like, I don't know, I guess just habits die hard, but I sort of still believe, like, really, is it really true? I guess it's just really hard to believe. Is it actually dead, or are there still a lot of preferences out there if you claim you're a member of an oppressed group? I don't know. What do you think?
Well,
I think it's
Can
very
you really
much
kill
alive.
it effectively?
I mean, you don't just kill it by executive order or by legislation, because then there's the implementation piece, and that's a fight. They fight every step of the way, and they'll be as obstructionist as they can be. So, it's a cultural argument you need to win about how we should structure things like admissions to colleges and jobs and contracts and so forth. And again, I mean, you just have to look at who controls the institutions on a daily basis. And by and large, I mean, Ben Sass may be an exception, University of Florida, but by and large, it's not the Ben Sasses of the world.
Right. I mean, we're moving in the right direction, but, Florida is an unfinished product. We're not there yet. It is certainly not a utopia yet, but I like the direction we're moving in. Certainly better than what's going on in Illinois.
Well, yeah, of course, but that's the lowest bar possible. So something else about Florida. Joe Biden the other day offered this guarantee again. This is something that they aim to make central over the next 6 months.
His MAGA officials are calling for a national ban on the right to choose in every state. I promise you, with the Democratic Congress, Kamala and I will make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. I promise you.
And so Florida... now some are hoping that Florida has just walked itself into becoming a swing state because of this ballot question that will be on the ballot in November in the state of Florida, whether or not to uphold the 6-week abortion ban that Ron DeSantis signed into law. they think that, and maybe combined with the marijuana question on the ballot, can flip the script in Florida. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. But it's interesting because just, as recently as a few months ago, even very prominent Democrats were saying that they'd given up on Florida. We're not going to spend any money on Florida. So it's interesting now that they have this renewed sense of optimism by putting these ballot initiatives on on the ballot for November. I don't know if it's going to have a big impact or not. I mean, I certainly don't think Biden's going to win here. That's for sure. But there's also, they're not giving up on Florida long term. We've seen a report for the Center for Immigration Studies recently. I don't know if you saw this one, but it said that they looked at all these hundreds of thousands of people who were getting parole from the 9 different countries. I think 360,000 people, the Center for Immigration Studies said. And their report indicated that something like 90% of them were being sent to Texas and Florida.
Right.
So there's a strategy there, isn't it? I mean, of course, these people are not going to be able to immediately vote in this year's election, but they're not giving up on Florida long term. Let's put it that way. Strategically, they're probably not going to spend money here, at least not very much in November, because I think it's a long shot, right, for them to flip Florida. But long term, they definitely want this state back. They're not giving up.
Well, they're also, and that's near the top of that list. In addition to Texas and Florida, is Georgia, and there was an amendment that was offered by Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty to stop the funding that is used to provide for these parole flights from foreign countries to American airports. And every single Senate Democrat voted to continue the flights. So what does that tell you?
Right. And I think also, too, that what they can do is I think they can sort of force the Trump campaign maybe to spend a little bit of money here, whereas otherwise maybe they wouldn't at all. So if they can make it even vaguely competitive here and force Trump to actually spend some money or spend time here in this state, then that's sort of an advantage too, even if they know they're not going to win. You know what I mean?
Right. And they'll have Kamala Harris circumnavigating the country, talking about what she can talk about, as best as she can talk, which is abortion. I mean, thus, her historic visit to the Planned Parenthood mill in Minnesota and these sorts of things. I mean, they're sort of in a place where they have to rely on that sort of rallying around that issue because they just don't have much currency on too many other issues.
No, I mean, Kamala, you got to love her, right? She is just tremendous. I mean, if only she'd actually gotten an abortion at that clinic, they probably would have nominated her for a Nobel Prize, right? I mean, the media loved that one. But, yeah, she comes here to Florida, relatively frequently, too. Why, I don't really have any idea. I mean, seriously, anyone who's a fan of our vice president is, like, functionally brain dead, as she is. I think I wrote in my column, and I love it whenever an editor gives me an opportunity to write about Kamala, which the Daily Telegraph just did. I think I wrote in my most recent column that my dog, Josh, is more intelligent and coherent and a lot more likable than she is. And I think I was being charitable, to be honest. She's an absolute albatross, isn't she? I mean, the thing that I think should concern Democrats about her, too, is that, I mean, you've already got a weak person at the top of the ticket, and then you somehow find a vice president who's even weaker and polls worse than you do. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the only good news from their perspective is that she is not going to be able to mount much of a future beyond this cycle. I mean, she'll have about as much chance in 28 as Mike Pence did in 24.
Oh, I'm not even thinking about 28. I mean, my concern right now is that Biden somehow wins, which I don't think, a lot of Republicans are feeling very, confident, and the polls look good at the moment. But listen, we're 6 or 7 months away. Mm-hmm. I think, people are getting way too cocky with these polls right now. A lot of Republicans are feeling like, oh, this is going to be a landslide, or it's going to be a comfortable win. I don't feel that comfortable at all. And what concerns me, as I outlined in the column I wrote about Kamala, is that I don't think Biden, if he does somehow win, would serve out of 4 years. No. I think he would, having quote unquote saved democracy, would decide to retire maybe a year or two in, and then all of a sudden she gets this designation. And the thing that's troubling about it is you can live with any president for 4 years or 2 years or even 8. But she would have this really important historical designation, and even like 100 years from now, school children will be told about the great Kamala, the great feminist hero who was our first American. I mean, seriously, first American female president. That would be huge, absolutely massive.
Don't want it to be her, though.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I'm saying. My God, it's a horrifying prospect.
Although she does have her finger on the pulse of what Americans are thinking, and why maybe there is some renewed optimism that benefits the Biden-Harris ticket because of the new president of Guatemala, which is an important occurrence for Americans. They're very there's a lot of excitement across the fruited plains about that new president of Guatemala, isn't there?
Yeah, she actually said that. I actually did my due diligence because I wanted to find some fresh Kamala word salads. I actually went through some of her recent speeches and remarks, and believe me, I think I'm probably the only person in America who's actually done this, reading transcripts of Kamala Harris' recent speeches. And I mean, you don't have to click very far to get into some absolute nonsense. But yeah, she did say that. She said that, my God, the election of this new guy in Guatemala, whose name I've already forgotten, just has brought hope, and Americans are feeling a renewed sense of optimism thanks to this. And then then she actually had to bring up her role in trying to address the root causes of migration.
It's gone great.
And how much success. Yeah, I mean, she was actually boasted about that. Like, we're doing great, and she rattled off some statistics. Like, we've assisted 63,000 Guatemalan farmers. That's what American cares about that? You know what I mean?
Nobody cares. And the guy's name is Bernard.
Nobody cares.
Bernardo.
From Guatemala. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That country's on my
Yeah,
list.
Amy
I'm
has.
just letting you know.
Amy has a
Christine and I are
renewed.
tight.
Amy has a renewed sense of optimism over Bernardo's election too. Yeah.
Well, I actually like the new president of El Salvador now. He
Yes.
seems pretty cool. The new president of Guatemala, I don't know anything about him.
Dave Seminara, former diplomat, author of the books Footsteps of Federer and Mad Travelers, A Tale of Wanderlust Greed and the Quest to Reach the Ends of the Earth. Thanks as always, Dave. Appreciate it.
Nice talking to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's